3:34 p.m. We can go ahead and call the Virtual Sustainability and Resiliency Task Force meeting to order and jump right into our silent meditation and pledge.
Bring it up. Here we go.
Thank you, Mayor Nickerson. Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. And turn it back over to you, Mayor Nickerson, for a roll call.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Roll call, Member Sandra Valencia.
Present.
Member Kristen McLean.
Present.
Member Courtney Kirk.
Here.
Vice Chair Fruitstone.
Present.
Chairperson Carpenter.
Present.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. You do have a quorum, Madam Chair. For the record, we do have Chief Magnuson on, who is the Chief of the Village of Upper Tile, and I believe that we do have Mr. Hugh Gladwin on, who acts as a consultant.
Perfect. All right. Thank you guys so much. Looking at the agenda, I have a few additions to make to the agenda, but I can go last. Does anybody else have any additions to make or changes?
No.
Kristen, Brittany?
Negative.
Okay. Maribel, Sandra?
I'm good.
Okay. I just wanted to add, I'm under H5. I spoke to Attorney Geller this morning, and I just wanted to give you guys an update on his request for a workshop. So I just want to add as item H5, Attorney Geller workshop. And then under I also want to just update you guys on our discussion about the fertilizer ordinance, so we can make that I1. And then I wanted to update you guys on just to open up for discussion, the lobbyist update that we got at the village council meeting yesterday. So make that I2. Anybody have any issues with any of those?
Love it.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve those?
Move to approve the agenda as specified, adding H5, I1, and I2.
Thank you. Can I get
A second.
Thank you, Kristen. Hearing a motion and a second. All those in favor of updating the agenda as stated, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the agenda is stated on the record. Perfect. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes taken down by Member Kirk? No changes? Okay, can we just get a motion to approve that as well then?
A motion to approve the minutes as written by Member Kirk.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you.
I
Hearing a motion.
second.
Thank you, Maribel. Hearing a motion and a second for the minutes from the previous meeting as drafted by Member Kirk. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those in favor say nay. Hearing none, the minutes from the last meeting have been approved. Okay, any acknowledgement or special visitors, Mayor Nickerson?
We have none today, Madam Chair.
Great. Opening it up to good and welfare. I see we have Mr. Gladwin on.
Yeah.
But just like anybody else, Mr. Gladwin, anything you'd like to chime in on the good and welfare provision?
Yeah, I just had one thing I want to announce that I figured I could do in the 3 minutes here, which is that I mentioned this to Mayor Nickerson before, but I had been working on getting current documents we talk about better located at the briefing notes site, which is the c7riochico.net/BN for briefing notes. So, I've kind of been putting background information, but we've also talked about current things. So I decided I'd have something at the top. I'd put things up so you could have them available during the meeting if you needed them. So I don't know if it's possible now to share the screen and pull up the site. I think it'd be easier if you pull it up from your end. I'll just quickly mention what's there. Can you do that, or do you want me to share my screen?
And do that. Let me 1 second. I have, well, maybe Mayor Nickerson, do you have easy access to that? I have about 1,000 tabs open on my computer right now.
Also,
Oh, thank you, Courtney. Can you see that, Mr. Glavine?
I'm looking. Are you looking at it now? A light blue screen?
Yes, it should be on the.
Oh, okay.
The
I see it. Yeah. Okay. So, 3 documents I put there. You talked last time about the Water Management Governing Board meeting, which turned out to have a lot of really important, useful information, although it was an incredibly long 4 hours. So the top link there, I think, if you could see, the top link goes to that. It's not going on your thing, but anyway, I would suggest you might want to, there it is. Yeah. So, you probably won't need to look at that during today's meeting, but it's really good background info. The second thing is, the LMS working group meeting on December 2nd. I was able to do screenshots of the slides. So again, not much is relevant, but I think the second presentation on grants is important. And then finally, the third document, my computer has like 1 million disks and God knows what. I occasionally find things, but I did find 3 septic to sewer documents that were there before that you probably have access to, but I put a link there. So you may want to refer to them during that session today. Most particularly, there's an excellent report that the village manager prepared, I think last year, which I had known was there. So anyway, that stuff's there. Later on, if you need to ask me about anything on it or refer to it, you can.
That's super
Okay.
helpful, Hugh, actually, getting those in one spot. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much. I've not seen that white paper from the village manager, so thank you so much. I'll spend some time on this weekend.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Hugh. That's really awesome. And that actually brings us right to agenda item H1 on the LMS funding and an update about the 12-3 meeting. So Mayor Nickerson, was this the meeting that Kristen, you had with you all, or about the LMS meeting with the county, or both?
That would be the one, Madam Chair. So Member McLean would be the one that is perfect to lead this off. I do have the notes that I have from that meeting, but she's the one that organized and headed off the whole thing. And it was a wonderful meeting. It was really great.
Yeah, so at the meeting, it was Hugh and myself and the mayor and the village manager and Orlando from the engineering group to go over. It was a bit of a wide-ranging conversation squished into a very tight time frame. So it was really not about coming to solutions, more about framing the problem. So we went over Christia's current grid of LMS projects which are in the state system. We talked a little bit about how, we talked a little bit about the things similar to what we've talked about previously on this call, which is that the forces seem to be gathering around increased interest in and scrutiny of the Little River area, and things like increased amount of chatter around septic to sewer, discussion of some of the preliminary issues that we're having even now related to things that will be affected by our MLS application. So we talked about things like revisiting our seawall ideas about the importance of the pumping stations, the recent flooding and flood threats that we were under with Ada, and the fact that we are already seeing impacts on the low-lying areas of the village right now. So this is not like a future thing. And one of the things that was really important that we raised in the context of that meeting is the fact that even in a nuisance flooding situation like what we experienced in Memorial Day and during Ada, that they still have there are still it isn't really nuisance flooding, because when the village gets underwater like that, especially if it's slow to drain like it was for Ada, people are walking around in water that's potentially contaminated with sewage runoff or with septic tank effluvium. And so even in a situation where we're dealing with what we would consider to be moderate nuisance flooding, no danger to anyone's life, it still is not a very good public sanitation situation for us. And that we need to perhaps lead with a little urgency around it, and because of this fact. So we talked about, and this is on my to-do list, Mayor. I'm sorry, I've not had a chance to work on it. I'm hoping to work on it over the break, which is to put together a deck for the village to use when presenting these issues in the larger context of the county or the state. So here's who we are. Here's our elevations. Here's the number of houses that are affected. Here's what we have already in the pipeline planning for things like septic to sewer. Here are our challenges, and here's why it is really important, and to try to tie what we're going through directly to the larger political drive around Bay Health and around the future of resilience in the entire county, right? So what happens here does affect the Bay. We've got pretty direct evidence in the fish kill and seagrass die-off, and we've got a certain amount of political will moving in the right direction. So basically to give Christia and the mayor something that says El Portal on it, but that is packed with the science that we know and with the context, so that they can make their argument for why, although we're a small village, we have an outsized impact. And also we have the potential to be a model for what the county and state are trying to do. So anyway, to try to boil that down and articulate it in a deck that then can be used for the village to try to plug into some of these larger efforts. So that was really the action point off that. I hope to be able to deliver that after Christmas when I'm on break. And that's it. Am I missing anything, Hugh or Mayor, from that recap?
No, I don't. I think that's it. I mean, as you say, a huge amount of points were covered in kind of a listing off and tentative way. So,
I mean, I think we're going to have a follow-up meeting in January. I'm hoping that we can make this be a working group where we can, because there are things that we may want to add to our MLS wish list for the state process, but it felt really important first to try to, it's really hard when you try to talk about this. I mean, we all know this on this committee because this is what we do. It's like there's nature, and then there's politics, and then there's the other environmental groups who are trying to work on different parts of this. And then there's us on the north bank of the Little River just trying to make municipal decisions that will help the residents of the village. So, and there's things that we can affect and things that we can't. So just trying to drill down to within the context of the MLS committee and the village, like what do we need to do as a village to move our own interests forward within those other larger contexts that we don't have a lot of control over. So,
yeah, if I could just add one quick thing, Kristen.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we kind of concluded by saying once again, we're really small. We do have these things, potential funding coming, and when it comes, then we have to do a proposal. But I think the other thing we really reemphasized at the end is we're not alone in this. This isn't something I mean, we have a very capable engineering company, but when it comes time to take some of this funding and turning it into a project, there are huge resources of the county there that want to step in and help us out, you know, and we have to
Correct.
be really open to that.
Right. I think which is why the idea of kind of getting it together from a messaging point of view and being clear about giving our village a presentation that outlines the issues, that makes these connections so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we have this conversation.
And
It's
I'm just
helpful.
going to add right now to the page on septic. Channel 10 reporter Louis Aguirre had a report on Mayor Levine Cava's new big septic to sewer proposal, you know, which came out about a week ago. I'll put a link to that, but it's clear that she sees this as a huge problem, and she sees that it's going to take a bunch of money.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Hugh, because I was going to bring that up under the septic to sewer.
Yeah, well, you can again.
I got that document about a week ago as well, and it's, I think, 111 pages.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share it with, it seems like you guys already have it, but I wanted to see if Mayor Nickerson couldn't like send that out via email so everyone had it as we start to move forward.
I actually haven't read it, Elizabeth, and I have not had a moment to slow down and download it.
No,
So,
I haven't read it either.
okay.
Skimmed
Yeah.
it. I was initially actually disappointed to see the beginning sections talk about prioritization of septic to sewer connections based on commercial properties and development, which their prioritization completely excluded anything in El Portal. It basically started at the El Portal minor line on Northeast 2nd, but that was 5 pages in and it's a 111 page document. So I'm hoping that there's some other good stuff in there about more environmentally or health-based things. So I guess we can.
But I mean, I think that's important then for us to bake that into whatever whatever we want to create as an outward facing document to present our case talks about that, right? So I think that's good. I just had a thought which was escaping me. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you?
I just have a couple questions for you guys, but continue and
there's one more piece, which is that it's the first time. So we talked specifically about the Shorewood Forest area, and we talked about a possible storm drain there. And Hugh explained to Orlando about the particular geologic nature of that area and why the flooding is happening there, even though you're a foot higher than I am over here. And then we also, and actually I want to ask Omar, maybe we need to put it in the agenda. I was not able to make it to the council meeting last night, but I do want to hear what was said about roadways, because 86th Street, West 86 is really starting to fall apart. So, which is consequence of the flooding, partly. So anyway, so we brought Orlando up to speed to that because he wasn't really aware of either of those issues.
Okay.
So anyway, go ahead, Elizabeth.
So I guess my question was in terms of, I know there's so much to discuss just to kind of get everybody on the same page. And so was the meeting more so about those kind of background discussions, or did you guys discuss adding specific projects to the LMS?
We didn't quite get to just adding specific projects to the MLS yet. I think that's sort of would be the next step after. Okay. It was more of an orientation meeting.
Okay, and I just wanted to add too, on that, I don't know if anyone else attended obviously Hugh did, the Biscayne Bay presentation that the water management did. Mayor Nickerson, you were there too. I heard Drew Bartlett, who's the executive director of the Water Management District, mention that they just applied, and he said it in passing. So I have an email in half draft form to confirm this, but I thought I heard him say in passing that they had applied for a $66 million grant to add a pump to the structure at the end of the Little River, I think the S27, for flooding issues. So I didn't know if you guys had also heard that.
Yeah, I did catch that, and in my notes I put a reference to the time in the video where it comes up.
Okay.
So you can go to that place. unfortunately discovered that pump, which is going to be about as big as we can do, is still 600,000 cubic feet per second, which isn't really that much when you consider the regular water flow and flood conditions is 2,000, but it will help. I mean, all this stuff will help.
Okay, and is it limited because of the size of the existing structure?
No, I guess that's the most you can do. That's the size of the big pump they put in for the Tamiami Canal by the airport too. I mean, the big need is for water retention upstream, to hold water upstream and let it out slowly. To do that, you need a big retention pond like they did for Tamiami. I think for us, the solution has to be to push for, forcing development to make parking lots permeable and things like that in North Dade, so the water will go and store in the aquifer before it gets polluted, and then they can let it out slowly. But,
So you don't think that even with that pump that addresses that doesn't address all the issues we've been discussing in terms of flooding at the current?
Yeah, well, that was part of the thing in the meeting that we're going to have to look at. I mean, we're going to have to do some kind of smaller scale seawall thing to slow down water coming in from the river into the aquifer up under the village. There are these pumps in El Portal, it's a whole complex of thing. But again, I was encouraged at the meeting that they're talking. I mean, they talked about the pump, but they also talked in the quote I marked, about the whole long-term C7 project, which is still, going strong, I think. And we just have to plug in as much as we can and politic as much as we can, to keep that going. But the other good thing about the meeting is, this is the new board. At the beginning of the year, the entire old board was fired and replaced. And I just felt like some of them aren't too plugged in yet, but listening to their questions and so on, I think they're going to be more positive about us down here. I mean, I think previously the old board just reflected for the most part, the Tallahassee attitude that, Miami's a problem. Why spend money on it? So.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
Yes, just wanted to quickly say, so first of all, Madam Chair, I want to thank Mr. Glavin for the whole, telling me about that. Remember at the last meeting, you guys brought it up and you said, all you have to do is go to the website and go under the event and it's right there. And so I did that day. And so I was there for the majority of it. Lee Hefty was the last one I heard. And he was after Anna, Christian Aliva. I wrote down some stuff that he was talking about because he was all about the maps and the graphs and things. I learned a lot about that. The phosphorus, the water deliveries from him, from Anna with the sargassum, the seagrass, and the fish kill event with the oxygen levels and like why that happened or whatever. But I think that, and Julie Espy, of course, but I think that Lee Hefty I wrote down here, there was one thing that when he was speaking, they started talking about the watershed restoration plan. And they went through the whole thing about how to be proactive and not reactive, because just like financial wise, which is like what we started to kind of think about is the finances of things and like how things break down financially. And they started to talk about, which is something that I can bring to the council in the future, in regards to this, they started talking about the money that it takes to clean up opposed to the money it takes to prevent something from happening, and how the prevention is much cheaper than the cleanup. So I think just like that right there encompassed just a whole thought process that I think that is good to go with when we're trying to get things done for El Portal, because when you come to politicians with money, that kind of like perks their ears up. That's the first thing. As far as the LMS, I have those notes here also. I think it's going to be great with Kristen getting myself and the manager the information packets, because kind of like piggybacking on what I was just talking about as far as like politicians and stuff with money and getting things done. If I can get those information packets, then when I do go to the county or something like that, I can say, you guys, this is why we need these things, because of this information that is the factual information that, you know, affects our community and things like that. Kind of cloaked under the whole idea of it's going to cost more money to do the cleanup than to be proactive. Also, I brought up at the LMS, where I was asking Member McLean and Mr. Gladwin just to get me like a list of the organizations that we should be a part of, because I'll show up, especially now with COVID, you know, unfortunately with COVID, but the thing about it is now everything's pretty much through Zoom, you know, it's not in person. So I can show up, and I will show up to every possible meeting for every organization that we should show up for. And with that information package, at least I'll be able to have things to say, because my point that I want to get out, which I think is very important, is that we were discussing, if Kristen, you and Hugh remember, we were discussing because Hugh was bringing up the other pump, but we were discussing the pump at the central station. And my point with that was El Portal is not a priority because they don't know about us. So we need to start to make ourselves be noticeable and be present at these meetings of these organizations, so that when things come up, people are like, oh, well, you know what? Like when I get up there and speak, after I've been to these meetings with these organizations, like, oh, well, El Portal's always here. Oh, we know Mayor Omar, he's always in our meetings. Therefore, when something comes up, they'll be more apt to and more open to helping out El Portal. But we can't just show up after we've never supported them, never shown up. And then when we need something, it's like, hey, think about El Portal. They're like, well, you guys don't even mess with us. Like, you're never here. So I think that's really big. It's just politically what I took from the LMS meeting and from the South Florida Water Management District meeting. And I think that what was really good about what Kristen put together with the LMS was that in that meeting, as I'm showing right here, I think that from the different positions that we carry, me, you know, politically, the manager with having to manage the village, you know, Kristen and Hugh and their environmental you know, wants and needs and impacts. I think that everybody's starting to kind of like find their niche, right? Find their niche, find like their you know, what they need to do going forward, so that we can, you know, hit what we need to hit. So I think that was a good thing that came out of that, because we all have different views on things. Whenever I hear something, I view it through a political lens, because I have to get things passed. You see, whenever like the manager hears something, she hears it through like not only a financial lens, but she hears it through like, is this possible? Like, how possible is this in reality? Me, I don't think about the reality of logistically the way the manager does. I think about the reality of, can I get this passed? That's my reality. So I think that it was good, because we're starting to figure out like our lanes and how we have to set up our arguments to make our lanes be successful. So I think that was good. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Nickerson. I totally agree with the point you made about getting, you know, our voices heard and having a seat at the table. And I was talking to Richard Pinsky after we both left yesterday too, and he had the same advice, is that, you know, we're a smaller municipality and we just need to be louder. So I'll certainly try to internalize that as well, you know, with some of the conversations that I'm hoping to have with the Water Management District about this issue, and just in the other Everglades related issues that, you know, obviously impact and are tied to El Portal. So does anyone else have any other questions on this for you or Kristen or Mayor Nickerson?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. No. All right, awesome. Thank you guys for doing that. And let us, Kristen, as you're putting that together, obviously we can't communicate outside of this. But if there is, you know, in our next meeting, if there's some piece of that you need help with, please tell us, and, you know, we can help you with that, because that sounds like quite the project you're going to be putting together.
Yeah, I mean, my hope would be like that I can bring it to a meeting and show it off for feedback during the meeting, kind of preview it here, and after, I think I would give the mayor and the village manager first crack at it to make sure that, that it works for them, and then we can look at it here and workshop it a little bit. And I, like everything that we do, it's a living document, right? So we'll put it up, and then I'm sure there'll be things to add to it. I mean, the Living Cava septic to sewer is the perfect example of something will come up, and then we got to bake that in some way to what we're talking about. So, or maybe use this deck to go after something that comes up. So we'll see.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much for on that and having that discussion with the team and reporting back. I think that's it for H1. H2, I think this comes to you, Sandra, the text notification service.
Well, because I've been away for like a couple of weeks, I know that the last meeting I was with you guys before, it's probably a month ago. I just remember that Courtney was making some testing with the Microsoft platform, the 365 platform. So I was just wondering if that worked out or it didn't. I'm not sure. I actually got a email notification that somehow I was, it was kind of like a sign-in or something like that. I didn't actually move forward with it. So I'm not sure how is that working for you, Courtney. So then I can make some, next steps, or I can take next steps regarding what is it that we want to do.
Sure. So
You should have done that during sorry, Courtney, I just want to interject really quickly during the last meeting. So just make sure, since we're not don't respond that in the meantime, since for sunshine reasons, unless we're on the meeting. Just wanted to throw that out there. Go ahead, Courtney.
right. So Sandra, at the meeting that you were overseas for, I did a quick demo. I've since updated it so it deals with attachments on texting and stuff like that, because that was a request. It works. There are a few kinks, and really, I think the most important thing is to figure out, and I think this is on your plate, obviously being out of the country, couldn't do it, to talk to the village manager, the police chief, that kind of thing, as far as requirements are. But from a technical standpoint, yeah, it works. There's some kinks.
Okay. Sounds great. That's what I wanted to know. So then I can move forward in meeting with our city attorney, our interim city attorney. And I haven't been able to do it because I was overseas, and to be honest, I didn't have the time, not even a minute, to really get on it. So this week probably it will be the best. So I will try to reach out to our Mayor Nickerson, so then find out if the city attorney, the interim city attorney, is available this week. Maybe not, I'm not sure, because they help the holidays. So I will try to meet with him and the manager and Mayor Nickerson as soon as possible. I hope we can get it done this week before the weekends, or even before Christmas.
All right. Thanks, Sandra. No problem. Good luck with that. Let us know if you need anything on the next meeting on that. Anyone else? Anything on this text notification service H2?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, so I reached out because one of the things from last time was, I believe the vice chair asked me about contacting the county to see if they have anything that we could piggyback. And I contacted them, and they said that there's no way that they said that they have the text notification program. They said, but they don't have it to where they cut it up by municipality. It's not. They said it's not like that. They said municipalities, if they that do have the text program, they're doing it within their own municipalities. They said because there's no way that for El Portal, they said if it was like the city of Miami, they said, or if it was somewhere like Homestead, they said they possibly could find a way of doing it. They said, but for El Portal, they said there's no way for them to have something that comes from the county that only that small amount of individuals would be able to, they only goes to El Portal residents. They said that it would be a bleed over into like city of Miami. It would be a bleed over into Miami Shores and things like that. They said because what they could do is they could block it out by like a radius of like blocks, but it has to be a large radius of a location for them to be able to say, okay, we want to send like something out, messages out to a certain location because, this location, they said that the radius that they would have to send it out to would be much larger than just El Portal, like much, much larger. So.
So may I ask you, Mayor Nickerson, if they told you, so basically their service is geolocated instead of actually like a database of certain numbers, certain cell phone numbers. So when they send out a text, what they do is just they geolocate the radius of whoever they're covering, and it is located at the time the text is sent.
Yeah, so we're talking about the county, right? Because we're talking about the county who I contacted. So if there's something happening in, that Kendall needs to know about, then yeah, they send the stuff to like the residents like in that area around Kendall.
Okay, got it.
Like in Kendall, directly outside Kendall, or in Homestead and directly outside Homestead, in Key West and directly like in the Keys, directly outside the Keys. So if they were to set something up for us, it would be like, it would stretch from like, 119th Street to like, 54th Street or something like that.
Okay.
I thought like maybe if they could just isolate around the river, like both sides, like Lodgemark and Oak Grove, like that Oak area, plus Belmead, like all of the areas that service, but it may not be big enough.
I think it might not be big enough. I told them, I explained to them why we wanted to do this, because of primarily the river and flooding and things like that. It would be for emergency purposes and stuff like that, not for everyday, just like items. But they said that that's how they break it down. That's how they do it. And they were like, it would be, they could include it, but it would be much more than just El Portal. So
May I ask the intention of Piggy Bank this purpose or this project within any other platform within the municipality or within the county is because of a matter of cost, or is it a matter of, okay.
Vice Chair was just asking because for a matter of cost. She was asking, we were going through all the different alternatives that are possible because we could find a better alternative and like, having that to do it ourselves or like save money somehow. She was just throwing that out there to ask if it's better to go over every possibility than to not even try,
No, I agree. I just wondering. I was just wondering. Okay.
And if he's already maybe asking, that might plant a seed in somebody's head in the county, like, hey, El Portal is talking about flooding, like maybe the more places that like to try to be, as we were earlier in our earlier agenda, talking about being kind of a squeaky wheel, like being the little municipality that everybody starts hearing about because we're talking about flooding. If all the offices talk about it, who knows? I want to venture to say they don't really coincide and talk to each other. So it would be, to benefit us if we put El Portal in all the county offices,
I want to encourage us,
as
just
an
as a
idea.
matter of record, to be using the words resilience instead of flooding. It's really important because
resilience.
I want to make it. I just like in the like when we go out to talk about this, like it's really, really important that we talk about resilience, not flooding, just because, and I say this as someone who's on the river, like we want to be perceived as a community that is facing this proactively and on behalf of the residents and not reactively and in a panic, because it's, for the long-term viability of the property in the village and the community and people's wanting to participate and be in the village. Like we have to really like put out a positive forward-leaning message about this. Just because if we're perceived as being like panicking, if we're panicking about it and we're not like really addressing it proactively in terms of perceptually, it's going to be it's problematic for us because we're going to wind up with newspaper articles about it with using the language flooding, not resilience. You know what I mean? like
Yeah, and I just want to like,
it's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And it really is, flooding is under inclusive and resiliency covers everything. It's a better term, regardless of newspaper articles. Like you said, it's a public health issue. It's an environmental issue. It's a flooding issue, so I just wanted to second that. I appreciate you
Yeah, and the point, I mean, we're leading on this as a group, right? We're leading on this as a village. So and that's we want that to be part of our brand, for lack of a better term. Like when we are out there and we're always showing up, Mayor, to your point, we want to be showing up because we're proactive, because we're innovative, because we are invested in our community.
Holistic approach.
All of that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Kristen. Okay, anything else on text notification? We're on still, right? Okay, all right, awesome. Thanks. Great discussion on that. H3, septic to sewer. So I think this is for me, just to update everybody on my discussions with the village manager. And then I know we probably have a few other things to discuss on it. But just as an update, the village manager sent me a great little summary in an email of what she knows of the status of our septic to sewer so far. And then we have a call scheduled for tomorrow afternoon to go into it a little bit further. And right as I was discussing this issue with her, I got a document about from the county's office about their septic to sewer document. And last night at the village council meeting, it was also raised as the things that Chief, is that you?
The one
Sorry,
that came, who? Yes.
I think he's.
I think one of the chairs might be able to force mute another person. I'm not sure if you can do that as a.
Let's see. Okay, thank you, Mayor Nickerson. I wasn't sure if Chief Magnuson was trying to interject or if it was a mistake. But yeah, so additionally, there's the last piece is that we got a great update, and Mayor Nickerson can speak to this further, but we got a great update from our lobbyists in Tallahassee about the work that they were doing at the state level to get funding for the sewer issue. One of the things that stuck out to me from that meeting was that with the new leadership positions in the state house, they're now requiring a % match, which was really shocking to me. They're requiring municipalities when applying for grants of this type to match the funds by 50%, which I think is very ironic because municipalities get their funds from state appropriations. So I just wanted to table, and I actually would love to turn it over to you for a second, Mayor Nickerson, to get your thoughts on that, because I've had a lot of thoughts since that came up last night.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was and I'll make it super short. I really don't have too much to say about it. That was because the lobbyists kind of led off of that, Madam Chair, if you remember. And as soon as I heard that, my mind immediately switched to like smaller projects. Yeah. Because El Portal, we can't afford. We don't have the money to be able to afford 50% matches on things that are huge infrastructure projects. So it's a terrible thing because you basically are just allowing everybody who's large to become larger. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like you're rewarding people who already have almost everything they need anyway, because it's the large cities who have the huge budgets and have the huge public works departments already, have the huge, infrastructure that's been up and working forever. They're the only ones that are going to be able to afford a 50% match, because the way it used to be was that, even if we had to match 50%, it was like, okay, you get the project, you get the funding, and you have 10 years or 5 years to pay back your 50% half of that match. Now, the way they were explaining it, and Madam Chair can tell you guys this last night, was they changed the whole thing to where as soon as you say you want this project, you have to show proof, you have to sign off that you have the 50% match, and that sign off from the mayor and manager goes into the ethics department. So that if later on you don't have, once that project gets shovel ready, if you don't have that 50% match, then either I go to jail or Christina goes to jail or we get fined and that's exactly what he says. Like you have to sign off with the mayor and manager and that goes to the ethics department to be held. And so not to be able to pay the 50% on the back end the way it used to be is just shutting small villages like us out and almost making it so that we can't get anything as far as real large infrastructure projects. And the chair, Madam Chair, will tell you that as soon as I heard that, I switched and said, well, let me try to get this village something. And I started asking about finances or money available for, smaller projects that other people might not be thinking about. Madam Chair, that's what it is.
Thank you. In thinking about that since yesterday, my next thought was, okay, we need a 50% match to do any of these infrastructure projects. But we're, as Kristen was just discussing, El Portal is really uniquely situated on the river with the discharges to the bay, which is a problem that affects everybody. So it seems it's such a rock and a hard place to have a tiny municipality need to match 50%. But we have an issue that, impacts the larger community. And so I immediately started thinking of other sources of funding. So, I know that we have a grant writer that we've met with on these task force meetings, but is there, I just did some quick Googling. Do we need to start looking at federal opportunities for funding, Miami-Dade County opportunities for funding? Obviously the the legislature is having this 50%, but what about FDEP, like those kind of things? Go ahead. I see you ready to, you know what I'm saying.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So tomorrow I have a mayor's coalition meeting with Mayor Levine Cava and 5 other mayors. And I have this on the agenda, actually. I added it on the agenda late last night. So that's going to be on the agenda. So what I'm going to tell them tomorrow when this comes up at the meeting tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to tell them, you guys, that I think what we can do, or one of the options that we should probably push forward as far as municipalities, is that we need to unite. Like the small municipalities that are right next to each other need to unite on projects to where one bleeds into the next. Because that's the first way or the first option that I have that we can get around this if we do it that way. Besides. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Oh, I had the same thought and put on my kind of agenda to reach back out to the chair of the Resiliency Task Force of Miami Shores, because I know that the Northeast 2nd Avenue corridor is a big issue, subject to sewer connection. Basically, that runs right from El Portal to Miami Shores. So if there's maybe an opportunity to collaborate for funding to get that done, and I don't know if you had any insight into. Have we historically ever worked with Miami Shores or any of the other neighboring municipalities on funding projects like this?
We have not.
Didn't they already bring their sewer down the alleys on Northeast 2nd? Hasn't that already been done?
What are you referring to, Member McLean?
That Miami Shores has already brought the sewer down their business district through the backs of the buildings, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but to answer your question, yes, McLean, that's a great point. To answer your question, Madam Chair, this will be the first time that that we would be joining up for actual infrastructure projects, taking it to Tallahassee as a joint force. So also have set up. Well, I reached out to set up. It's not set up yet. A meeting with County Commissioner Hardeman, only because if we're going to do it like this, it's going to be multiple, municipalities within his county, within his district of the county. So, so that's going to be something else. But that's the only way, just short term, I see us getting around that, because the governor's going to be there, for a while. The legislature is set up the way it is. They're going to be there for a while. So this is the only way short term. There'll be more ideas that come out of the meeting tomorrow, the Mayor's Coalition meeting, but right now, this is the only way short term I see us tackling this immediately.
Are there any opportunities? Sorry, Hugh, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to jump in here, Mr. Mayor, because everybody, there is one really special case that's just tremendously important. Where it's the case where this matching thing comes up the worst, but there is a solution. and that is our two big money items, the two pumps. You know, we'll never get a match for those, but here's the way that came up in the C7 planning process. The way it is, you know, the way they did it before in the C4 canal, and they have to do it here is, you know, they do all kinds of improvements. They increase retention upstream. They put a pump on the S27, but most critically, every low-lying area has to have a pump within it also to pump out. You know, so, you know, I remember the day at that meeting, it all came up in a discussion. You know, it was clear, like, the big low-lying area next to us that needs pumps is Larchmont, and the area just west of it. Well, that's Miami-Dade County unincorporated. They got their pumps 4 years ago. You know, so when this whole project comes online, you know, and 66 million was one thing said at the governing board. I've heard another 33 million. You know, they have to put the whole project together, and that includes all the pumps. You know, in the C4 project, I think there were 4 big pumps went into Sweetwater. I don't think Sweetwater, you know, could get matches for those pumps. What happens is, you know, they have to say, take extra money out for our pumps from the big 66 million budget. I mean, that's the way they were talking about it. It won't work with, you know, without our pumps there. I mean, they're not for really for us and our flooding and resilience. They're to make the whole thing work. So what I'm
Are you talking about the C7 planning process that the district, the water management district put together, or the county?
both, it's the same.
Okay.
The lead was both. I think the top lead now is going to be the resilience office in the county. You know, but we really have to, you know, whenever that comes up, we have to jump in and just remind them that that's necessary, that if they're going to require matching and us pay for our own pumps, that's just a big hole in the whole system that's going to be there, you know, and, you know, and the base.
Go ahead.
Well, I could just say, there's also a lot of distractions from this because, you know, on the one hand is critical for the health of the bay, but on the other hand, a huge amount of the money that's been dealing with sea level rise, you know, is going to waterfront properties on the bay, you know, so we get ignored because we're part of this big inland flooding. We're the consequence of it. So, you know, it's like everything that Mayor Omar that you say about being visible, being present, you know, we have to be ready to jump in and say, okay, guys, you know, we're going to make this happen, but we don't have the resources to, you know, be the person that puts their finger in the hole in the dike ourselves.
Yeah. I think that my understanding from, you know, what Rich was describing yesterday was that not all of our funding from any source now has a 50% match, but from a direct appropriation from the state, from the legislature for a particular project. So I'm guessing, so for example, the S37,
Yeah.
that's the structure. Yeah, that would be funded by the water district, not direct appropriation of funds from the legislature to El Portal. So I think that was my understanding, Mayor Nickerson, was that yours as well? That was the change that just happened this year for the matching. Yeah, okay. So I think that still leaves opportunities for grants and federal funding and you know, money from the county and all projects that we're talking about as well. So I think we just have to, again, to Mayor Nickerson's words, we just have to, you know, be communicating this on all fronts and all avenues.
Yeah, and let me just, Madam Chair, just to say really quickly, also, and I don't know if, you might not, I don't know if you caught it, Madam Chair, or not, but Vice Mayor Erbaum, when he was saying that, Vice Mayor Erbaum kind of said, like at one time, he just kind of threw it out there or whatever, kind of like a little bit under his breath, but it was through the microphone. He said, well, then we should concentrate nationally on national, like we should concentrate nationally. He said that. And I think that's really big because I remember, not to get too like political, but I remember when Obama was in office, that's like right around the time where I just started like kind of like started. I remember the remnants of Obama, or the beginning of just Obama, those Obama years, there was much more money for environmental like programs and environmental projects and things like that. So I think now with the change of leadership at the national level, where the state won't give us money, we could probably find some money. We used to find money at the national level during the Obama years. That's how we got a lot of the tree programs and the tree city. Like we got a lot of stuff coming in, and even like even to start the process of the subject to sewer that we started and stuff like that came through the Obama years. So I think now we'll have more money will be available for more environmental projects, I think.
Okay, great. That was my thought too. I mean, this is a federal issue. We're draining the waters of the United States that are, a national water. So it is a federal issue. And I was wondering if we can, I don't know exactly know the parameters of our grant writers task for the village, but is that something we could ask him to look into, specifically look for federal grants? Okay, or private grants, So I think that's I'll have more updates on the septic to sewer next task force meeting after I have the meeting with the village manager. But I think that's a lot for now. Open it up to the other members for any thoughts, comments, questions. No?
I just like the way we're thinking. Cool. I mean,
I love free money.
All right, great.
I actually,
can I ask a really quick question just to memorialize it here and also for my own information? Omar, how does this intersect with the FEMA money? Or how are we thinking about the FEMA money? And we don't have to unpack. I mean, if it's too much to unpack here, we don't have to unpack it here, but I'm just curious about it.
Situations are ongoing situation. Every week I find something new. And so give me, I have a lot of things that.
Give you a cycle? Should we talk about it next time?
Give me until the end of January.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of stuff going on with that. Like since I've been in office, every week I've had 3.5, 4-hour meetings with all the people with FEMA and disaster relief people, and there's a lot on the table right now. But it's moving fast.
All right. So we'll just agree that you will update us when you have news on FEMA.
Well, give me till February the 1st. Since we meet the 1st and 3rd, give me February the 1st meeting in February, that first week for that sustainability meeting. Give me that. All right. I appreciate it.
Okay, great.
ask
Anything
a
else?
question, if you may, Madam Chair.
Of course.
I have a question regarding this project. Since I've heard that we've been kind of like ignored and that there's not a possibility to get any funding because we're too small, and I know that Mayor Nickerson is just mentioned, a coalition of kind of like getting closer to municipality next door, like, I don't know, Miami Shores, Biscayne Park, Norway Village. Well, actually, Norway Village is connected to the sewer, isn't it? I'm not sure, to be honest. But I just wondering, is anyone like in the leadership of creating these communications and these relationships with like Miami Shores? I think in Miami Shores, because they're so close and they have property just next to the bay, it will be a good chance for us to just get together And then we will have a little bit more attention because of the size of it, of the project, you know, and probably we can actually piggyback, you know, and it will be even less cost. I don't know if I mean, remember that I am the rookie here, so I'm trying to learn and pick up all the information that is going on. So I was just wondering if there is one person within our task force or within the council that is leading that relationship with the next door municipalities.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
really quickly, Madam Chair, before you can jump in when right after this. So remember Valencia. So I've not only, first of all, let me just say this, as far as what we just were talking about with joining these other municipalities and things like that to create a bigger front, take the Tallahassee. The Mayor's Coalition, I said there's about 6 of us. There's, Mayor Levine, Calvin, about 5 more of us. The mayor of Miami Shores is on the coalition with me. Crystal's on the coalition with me. Not only that, but last week I had a meeting with the Miami Shores mayor and the North Bay Village mayor. We met at Shuckers restaurant. We met for about 4 hours talking about all type of stuff we're going to join on. As a matter of fact, there were North Bay Village is going to be doing some stuff with Resiliency, and they're going to include us and Miami Shores in on these things. Okay. So they're going to be, they're putting it together now. That's the reason why I didn't put it on the agenda or start talking about it, because they're finalizing it now. So I want to get it final and everything before I bring it to you guys. But yeah, I'm reaching out to everybody every day. I meet with people all day long, every day. But Madam Chair, if you want to add.
I understand, and I really support that we need to get closer to our, next door municipalities, because that makes us, a little bit more powerful in front of Tallahassee for us to actually get any sort of funding in regards to resilience and sustainability. So I appreciate your efforts. So let us know if we can help in any way. I have really good ties and relationships with Miami Shores as well. So just keep me posted, and if you need help, let me know.
Yeah, so Sandra, I'm also within the task force. I'm the liaison for Miami Shores Resiliency Task Force. And they're the chair of their task force. His name is Darren. I had a very long conversation with him about 2 months ago, because their task force is, I think they started a few months after we started. So they're even newer than we are. And I have a really good relationship with them. We keep in touch frequently, and he was updating me on some of the work that they're doing. And this is something that him and I had discussed we are both, on behalf of the task force, interested in working together on that. And so that's something that's already in discussion, but that we need to, have some action items on. So that's something I'm going to continue the narrative on as well.
That's awesome. Sounds promising. That's something that I've been wishing for so many years, living in the village, just to see that our relationship with our next door village, especially Miami Shores, get closer, and more tied to, getting solutions for both of us, So yes, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we discussed, the watershed impacts of, what Miami does on El Portal and the river and the bay and all that kind of stuff. So they're definitely on the radar. And like I said, not just for I can't speak at all to the council of Miami Shores. I'm sure Mayor Nickerson would have a better, but I know the task force is interested. Okay, anything else on this one? Or subject to sewer? Anything else on H3? No? Okay, moving on to H4, which is the next task meeting. That's currently scheduled for January 6th. How does everyone feel about that?
Never been happier in my life.
Let me just say really quickly, Madam Chair, just to throw this out. So January 6th, task force will be having their meeting. January 4th is qualification for the open 2 council seats. It starts Monday, for 2 weeks it's open, starts noon, Monday, January 4th, and the last day of qualification, it ends noon, Friday, January 15th. The election is a month later. I kept it on a Tuesday because that's the government day. The election is February 16th, Tuesday. February 16th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday, February 16th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Village Hall. Qualification, Monday, January 4th to Friday, January 15th. As my brother from another mother, Mr. Kirk says, if you are even thinking about running, run, people, please, 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 please. Whoever's gonna see this later, appreciate it, brother from another brother, Member Kirk, appreciate it.
No worries.
I have a quick question regarding that, if I may. Is the city hall going to be open and the clerk available there in the city hall?
So as soon as qualification opens on January 4th, Monday, call Village Hall, make an appointment to come in and get your qualification papers. Because COVID, we can't have, 5 people show up at the same time. Just make your appointment. She'll make our appointments with everybody. All right. 2 weeks, people. We got 2 weeks. Don't wait till the very end.
And we have 2 seats, and we better fill them because it would be really super depressing if we didn't.
Yeah. Please, if anybody out there is even contemplating on it, just run. Just run. Thank you, Madam Chair. I know that was kind of like off topic, but I'm trying to get that out there, as much as possible. I appreciate it.
Great. Okay, so objections to January 6th at 3:30 for our next task force meeting? No, not seeing any. Okay. So now H5, which was I put down as Attorney Geller workshop. So when I talked to Attorney Geller earlier this morning, that's next on. That's am I discussing? Yes, I'm discussing the fertilizer ordinance later. But he had mentioned to me that he wanted, after taking a look at the bylaws that we had proposed, he would prefer to have a workshop with us to go over the bylaws and go through them. And so I told him I would bring that up at this meeting, and he suggested, he indicated that it was not super urgent, but that perhaps we could select a meeting that doesn't have a lot of agenda items to put it on that meeting, or we could have a separate workshop. I think that we could probably just do it on one of our existing meetings and just be cognizant of the schedule and not add a very data to that day. But I wanted to open that up to you guys, whether you'd rather have a separate workshop or whether you'd have it during our meeting.
Sorry, Elizabeth, why do we have to workshop?
It wants to discuss your question. He told me that he wanted to discuss the specifics of the bylaw with us and how they fit into the village's charter as a whole, and appointments and that kind of stuff. I don't think it's going to be incredibly extensive, but he said instead of just changing the bylaws himself, he would rather discuss with us why he thinks certain changes need to be made.
So this didn't just pass at the meeting on Tuesday, I take it.
Did you guys see, remember, I sent the email out. Saying that I pulled them because I said, Attorney Geller, when I forwarded you guys the packet of the full council meeting. If you guys remember, I forwarded you guys the packet of the full council meeting, and I said the bylaws are not on there because Attorney Geller said that he wanted to speak to you guys about getting the exact legal wording that would that you guys are looking for to say what you guys want. That's what he told me.
I apologize to you, Omar, and I apologize to the committee that I missed that. So thank you for clarifying that. Okay.
Kristen was right on the right alley, though. I'm going to back up Kristen on this one. I really would prefer not to have a full workshop. Can he provide as an action item for him before the meeting so that we can get it in the packet what he is suggesting the legal changes need to be? Therefore, we can avoid wasting time at the next
It could be an entire meetings conversation if we do it in an open meeting, eventually.
It's going to take forever. So if he can just say, these are the changes legally that we should be making, and we could look at them and then come in specifically and have a question, hey, why do we have to do this here? This doesn't make sense. I don't understand, rather than soup to nuts going through a lengthy diatribe on the legal profession. I'd just like to be efficient. So that would be my suggestion to Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'll do that. I'll contact him and say, hey, take the bylaws, red line, what you feel should be changed, and then get them back to me, and I'll have it for. This is what I'll do. We'll do that. We'll have them red line. We'll bring it to either the next meeting. I mean, if we can get it done over the vacation, or we can save it for the meeting right after that. We can do it that way, and then we can just go from there. But you guys remember, always remember this, you guys, that as an attorney, him being the at the end of the day, you guys take the vote on what you want, right? So just like with the council, they're there to guide us and give us their opinion legally, which by all means we should look at and take if we feel like that's the right legal opinion. But at the end of the day, what you guys want and exactly how you guys want to say it is up to you. At the end of the day, you guys take the vote. So just always keep that in mind.
Sure, but if his changes are relatively benign, there's no reason not to accept them. If they truly change our approach, then we should have a discussion among the committee members to say, task force members to say this is something we're willing to accept, or no, we understand his risk and we still don't want it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is what I'll do, Madam Chair. If you think that's the right way, we'll get them to go through, redline it, and get it back to us. But Madam Chair, what do you say?
Yeah. So I obviously I have no issue with. I think I'm all about efficiency in the meeting. I think perhaps if he wants to discuss them with us, that's the best way to do is have him redline them, send them back to us, and then have him on one of our meetings. And if anybody has any questions on the red lines that he sent, we can address them with him that on the meeting. And if everything's easy, we just say, sounds great, and it's fast. But if not, we have everyone together to solve the problems. Okay, great.
I would encourage us to time, and no disrespect, I just would encourage us to time box that conversation to avoid it taking an entire hour or more. Just like, I just want us to engineer this for efficiency, potentially. So
I hear you, and I feel the same way. I'm not sure how we could, I don't want to, if it comes back with a ton of questions, I don't want to tell somebody that they can't address that while we have the attorney on. So maybe we just tried. I would suggest we don't do it on the next meeting, because we're going a few weeks now, right? Or is that just now, the next meeting? Or are we going 3 weeks till the next meeting? It's 3 weeks. So I would propose not doing this on the next meeting, because we may have some things to catch up on, and then schedule for the next one with the hopes that we can have a light agenda so that Kristen's very legitimate concern does not end up in a 3-hour meeting.
And the other thing is, if we can get it from Attorney Geller, get his red lines, Mr. Mayor, if we can get those for this meeting, that way, if we need to have any quick discussions among ourselves very briefly, that we can, again, get those back to Attorney Geller to have a most productive meeting in about a month.
So Courtney, are you proposing that we get the red line for the next meeting, maybe have people review it going to the meeting, talk about it, and send back to Attorney Geller so that we can take it up live with him the following meeting?
Yeah, that is in fact what I'm suggesting, if possible. I don't know what his concerns are going to be, whether they're going to be tactical or strategic. I mean, if he just wants to rephrase things but keep the same meeting, I'm not sure how much we're going to care. But if he's going to change, no, you can't do that, yes, you can, we're going to need to have a discussion whether we think anything's, quote, worth fighting for against what he's suggesting, or whether, yeah, okay, good enough.
Madam Chair.
Short answer.
Go ahead, Mayor Nickerson.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. The only thing I would say is, you guys think about this though. If we're sending it out to be red line and then we get it back, us having a discussion on our own he's not there to say why he redlined those things. We might look at the red line and be like, well, we want that in, when if he would have been there, he would have said, well, legally, you guys can't have that because da 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 da. So
I would second that, and I think spreading it out over 2 meetings is going to result in a total amount of time
Duplication, okay.
larger, exactly, than if we just did it in 1 meeting, made sure that our agenda was light that week, and came prepared with our, with our thoughts on his red lines, and just knocked it out in 1 meeting.
Can we, Omar, if that's the way we're going to go, Madam Chair, can we ask that we get the red lines with ample time, not 2 days before, but like a week or 2 weeks before, so we can truly look it up, look at statutes if we need to be able to defend certain areas or have an intelligent research discussion with him?
yeah, absolutely. Member Kirk, I'm gonna try to get it as quick as possible. Trust me.
Does that work with Sandra and Maribel? Is that plan okay with you guys as well? We did not get out in one meeting, we did it in advance.
Yes, that's fine. I am not in any way, shape, or form an expert at all on legal speak. So whatever is the easiest thing and the least time consuming, I would really appreciate that. So that's my thought on that. It needs to be efficient because he's a talker.
I'm in agreement with Maribel as well, so I'm good.
Okay, great. So I would prefer we for him either the 20th of January or the February. Those are, I think, our next scheduled meetings. Mayor Nickerson, just so that either one of the, he's not it's not a huge hurry if we 2 weeks later that we pass bylaws. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get it done as soon as possible, you guys, like real quick.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. That sounds good. That's the end of our agenda items. We have lots to do on unfinished business and new business, and we have 4 minutes. Unfinished business, update on fertilizer ordinance. That's back to me. The reason I talked to Attorney Geller was to discuss this fertilizer ordinance issue with him. And he agreed with my reading of the statute that under that Florida statute, we are actually required to have a fertilizer ordinance because we are in the watershed of an impaired body of water under that the DEP has classified as impaired. He wasn't sure whether whether the C7 is classified impaired, but I'm fairly certain that, and I think Kristen added that it was as well.
It is.
So, okay, so we are required to pass that ordinance then. And I don't have much to add. He was on the same page as me that we need to do that. We then have to adopt the model ordinance that is proposed by DEP. Unfortunately, when you go to the DEP website, it directs you back to the statute, which tells you to adopt the model ordinance that DEP has promulgated. So it sends you in a circle. I found some model language just in Googling, and it's pretty similar to what the waterkeepers have proposed. It seems to me like they actually just sent us one of the model ordinances, but the only twist to that is multiple versions of it. There's a 08 version, 2000, and then potentially sooner. So I'm just going to reach out to the model ordinances were promulgated with DEP, the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and IFIS department. So I'm just going to reach out to them directly and see if I can't get the most updated version of that. And then we can bring that to the table. And we do, the model under the statute, the model is the document that we need to adopt. But if we would like to adopt more stringent standards, we do have that option. We just have to meet basically have to prove that we need more stringent standards. So all of that to say, in the next 2 weeks before our next meeting, I will find and get it confirmed in writing, the most recent updated version of Florida's model fertilizer ordinance, send that in advance, Nickerson, in advance of our next meeting, and we can bring that to the table then. Any questions?
I do have a question. I do. So isn't the county passing one that would supersede us potentially? Or are we just obligated to do it as a municipality anyway?
under the statute, we're obligated to do it as a municipality. I don't know what the county one looks like and how that would impact it. But I mean, I can look into that. I can, you know,
Let's do what we need to do. And if it turns out that theirs supersedes ours, my understanding is that it's like more stringent than Waterkeeper's, you know, had cause to expect. So.
Okay. I think we need to move forward with this regardless, like because of the statute. So, that is it. That point, I'm not sure what the answer to that one is.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
No, I'm not really sure if we just have to pass boilerplate stuff, why the state is requiring localities to do it as opposed to saying as a state law, this is what it is. It makes no sense if the law says that locals have to do it because, you know, what if our council people voted against it? I mean, they're legally allowed to vote whichever way they want. So to me, it makes no sense, but I'm not arguing with you, Madam Chair. I just think it's a ridiculous exercise.
Madam Chair, if I may. Member
Yes,
Kirk,
go ahead.
Kirk has a great point, but you know, the reason why we have to do things like this is because, for example, like let's say if there's a whatever, we'll use a fertilizer ordinance. Okay, so there's a fertilizer ordinance, and you know there's one that you know there's on a state level, and it's you know you have to abide by it. So let's say that it comes to El Portal, and El Portal doesn't pass its own fertilizer ordinance. Stuff like this has happened in the past. We don't pass our own fertilizer ordinance. And then let's say some funding comes up where those who have passed fertilizer ordinance, they're open to it because they've accepted the fertilizer ordinance within their municipality. If you don't pass it yourself, then you don't accept the funding. Like things like that have happened in the past. So that's the only reason why they do
I
it.
understand that the teacher telling the students, if you do this, you'll be in line for, you know, a cookie at the end of the day. I understand that, but saying you have to do that and then giving you the option to do it just seems oddly undemocratic to me. That's all.
So I think what they're doing is the legislature is just kicking enforcement and implementation of the ordinance down to the municipalities by it in this manner. Who knows why the legislature?
Remember, Kirk, you know government and politics, man. They force you to do something, but they have to make it look like you wanted to do what they force you to do.
No comment.
I mean, in terms of how it impacts us, though, it's very, I'm guessing based on the PDFs on the internet, I found that were similar to, you know, that purported to be versions of the model ordinance. Obviously, I wouldn't rely on that, but I'm assuming that the model ordinance is very similar, so that we've already looked at. So it doesn't really, just in terms of practice, it doesn't change the outcome on our end that much. We'll just be in compliance with this statute. Obviously, you know, Courtney, to your in one of our previous meetings, we do have less flexibility. I also discussed enforcement with Hitler as well. And he, you know, and my concern, and I believe a concern that you voiced as well, Courtney, about enforcement, that we have a memorandum of understanding with the state attorney, and he wasn't sure if it was the state attorney or perhaps the county about enforcing certain local ordinances, and that should be an avenue to either have the county or the state attorney be the enforcement on this, or if it, you know, or potentially our own code enforcement department if there's no potential criminal liability, which I don't believe there is. I think that's a discussion we should have when we can read the ordinance and not, you know, get ahead of that until we know what the exact language is. All right. Any other thoughts or comments on that? Okay. Lobbyist update. Honestly, I think we kind of already addressed this about, you know, the information we received from Richard Pinsky and his colleague yesterday about the projects we have going. I just had a question for you, actually, Marion, on this. The 3% match we went over, but how does, you know, they presented 3 projects that they brought to Tallahassee in the previous legislative session. How does the village determine which projects are them to then be sent to Tallahassee?
So when he was there, when they were there last night, he said, we're going to come back to get the legislative priorities of the village. So it's
Okay.
whatever we decide. So, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. One way you can say, okay, you guys, we want our lobbyists to just concentrate on, one thing or two things and just go hard all the, the whole legislative session for these two things. And that's kind of like, putting all your money in like one pot. Or the other way to do it, the other option is to have your lobbyists, speak to various individuals throughout the legislature about various items, a number of items that the village may want. So it's just how you want to do it. If you feel like, if you feel like you want to just, concentrate on one thing, you're putting all your money in that one pot, they're going to do, day in, day out, week in, week out, they're going to hammer those individuals who are in charge of those appropriations committees to try to get that one thing. But if you don't get that one thing, then you have nothing to show for it, which is why I brought up the other items that we should probably go for this time around, being the 50% match.
So is it a vote that the village council in terms of what the city's priority?
Mm-hmm.
It's a vote. Okay, so that's a vote that you all will be taking at the next council meeting in January. And are you all, someone just makes a motion to financial priorities that they're selected from?
Exactly. They'll come back and we'll make a motion to tell the village manager what the legislative priority should be for the village for this for this year, for this legislative session, I should say, this legislative session.
Okay, and then that's a discussion that happens at the council meeting between the council and yourself. Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
But if whatever you guys know, I'm 100% with you guys. So if you guys have ideas, you guys just let me know and I'll bring those to the council.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor. Any other points on the lobbyists or the village's legislative priorities? No? Okay, and then so we move on to new. And I actually wanted to, I'm sorry, Chief Magnuson, I meant to add this to our agenda in the beginning, but I know yesterday when I ran into you, mentioned that you wanted to give an update to the group on the COVID update. So is now time for you to turn it over to you?
Yeah, I mean, it'll only take a couple minutes. Yeah, that's all good. Just, to keep everybody in the loop with the, as far as resiliency goes and everything, I think it's an important thing. As you all know, the vaccines were rolled out. There were some logistical hiccups along the way. I know Florida, there's some things with getting some shipments there, and we got it all squared away as far as the police. I was tasked with putting together a list of all the municipalities that do not have their own fire department. Those that have their own fire department, the Beach, Hialeah, Gables City, County, etc. And just have a list of sworn officers and then also non-essential employees of the police department. So there's a plan in place as we go down the list from 1A, where we are now, depending on where we're going to fall and when that happens. And really, there's no timeline right now. Just to get the local first responders, I'm sure fire department would be there, right from the get-go, because they'll be the ones administering it to the police. So we're waiting to see what happens there. Also in the meetings, and it's nothing that you all don't know, but I'll repeat it nonetheless. They need 75% of the population really to get this for herd immunity. Right now, I do not see that getting anywhere near it, but that's usually the case, when vaccines come out initially. My suspicion is there's going to need to be a very strong public service announcement campaign moving forward if this is what they choose to do. And then as you go through the periodicals and look at different areas or different magazines that are somewhat respected, there's talk of a new strain in England, in the south of England, that's popped up. Nothing life-threatening per se. Nonetheless, that could throw a kink in the works on vaccines. So they don't know yet. There's just so much thing going on with this right now. The idea, though, especially with the holiday season coming up, we talked about it last meeting, is just to do what you can. And this is the message being pushed out. Just do what you can not make the same mistakes people did on Thanksgiving. try to separate oneself, not to have the big celebrations. And I get it. It's easier said than done. You know, there's still spikes going on, the hospitalizations. I don't hear of any issues thus far with ventilators or being short of that, but you know, we're in the winter months. Everybody's going to be going inside in the Northeast now because of the blizzard heading up to the nor'easter. That's going to just that's something that they didn't expect to happen, and it did. So there's no like hanging out on the street and getting together. Now everybody's inside. So we'll see where this goes. I mean, we got through it in the summertime with the hurricanes, and you know, when everybody had to go to the evacuation centers, you didn't hear it going off the chain back then, as far as people at the evac centers. They set that up really well. So let's just see what happens. Again, like I said last time, and I think the scientists are saying it, this is going to be some rough months coming. And you know, the vaccine's out, it's coming along, and it's just going to be it's going to take some time. I think if those that want the shots want it right away, I don't think it's going to happen as quickly as people think. It's just getting some, you know, the kinks that come with everything that's new. It'll get worked out. It'll come, and in the meantime, we just got to do the best we can to prevent it, you know, and to keep it from spreading. I'm continuing on with the meetings, and as I get anything of importance, I'll certainly push it out so everybody's aware of it.
Great. Thank you so much, Chief Magnuson.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for the chief?
No, but I do appreciate the chief forwarding materials as he finds them appropriate for us. I do appreciate that.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and always thank you also for always being here, man. Like, you know, you're on your days where you're doing work and stuff. You're here with us from beginning to end, which says a lot. We appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question, Chief Magnuson, and it's regarding, you know, the new, you know, shutting down businesses maybe in the future, I don't know. But anyways, I just came back from overseas and I found out that there is a curfew. So just to make sure, the curfew is from 12 to 6 a.m. That's what it is right now?
That is correct. And I know now the city recently, and I only know because, you know, what I've seen on the media as well, they're going to start enforcing. And we've had a couple instances where, you know, we stopped a few people, and they weren't up to anything wrong, and we let them go. You know, he says we got a curfew. You know, a lot of it's education. But that being said, too, you know, it certainly helped us out in the sense, and I knock wood as I say it. You know, we've had a couple with the burglaries, the shed burglaries. We made a couple arrests. It stopped. We haven't had, and I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it now because I know I'm jinxing it. We haven't had a car break-in 3.5 months. And so, you know, when you see somebody walking down the street in the course of the curfew, it's like they're free to be stopped. You know, and that does help. We don't have an entertainment district per se, and that's what this is more geared towards. I understand that. But in the village, it's not a bad thing either. I mean, people shouldn't be out wandering around and in a time of emergency and stuff like that. So, you know, we are enforcing it. We are following what then Mayor Jimenez put forth. I have to do a report each day, and on the weekends too. I send a simple one, but I send it to the county, what we're doing, how if we're enforcing, and occasionally they'll ask who's still enforcing, or are we enforcing mask issues? We're doing education. The teeth were basically taken away. If somebody tells you to pound sand, they're not wearing a mask because you can't really find them or anything. I hope that changes, because I think it's kind of ludicrous to have a law that if somebody decides they're going to be adamant against you know, abiding by it, you know, you kind of shrug your shoulders and say, what do I do now? And so that may be revisited, but at, you know, at a much higher level than and much farther north up the state. So we'll see how that goes. But we've been educating a few people. Normally, you know, they see us with the mask. People have been pretty good in El Portel. A couple of times we told people you need the mask on, and it's not a problem. It's education. And, you know, if that's the way it gets things done, I'm fine with that.
And I do see some people, Chief, wearing the masks, but a lot of people, as you're out walking your dog and you're nowhere within anybody, they aren't wearing masks, and myself included. And, you know, I understand that logic. Certainly, you go to any place indoors or where you aren't going to be able to stay 10 feet away from people, yeah, you wear a mask. But if you're just outside walking by yourself or with somebody in your household, I think it accomplishes the goal that the mask mandate really has.
No, I agree. No, nobody's stopping anybody walking a dog or things like that when they're by themselves. For instance, there was a gathering at the skate park when they first opened it, and everybody had masks on because there was a bigger crowd there. And some that were way off to the side, they may not have, but those that were in close proximity did. And that's the nature of what this is meant to do. It's not for somebody walking the dog or jogging in the morning or walking by themselves at 5 a.m. and just getting their exercise in. It's not for that. And again, it goes back to what I said. It's more entertainment district type of things or clubs type of things. I think that's what it's geared towards at the end of the day. But it is good. It is good practice to do if you're around people, for sure.
And
They do work.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go on.
Ma'am, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just really appreciate your efforts. And I don't know, coming from overseas and obviously from a poor country, as you know, is a second world country consider, I was surprised. Let me tell you guys, the ruling down there is amazing regarding COVID. The way that is being played out throughout that country is Colombia, by the way, in South America, is amazing. I was just like, whoa, this is serious here, guys. Every single commercial store, local, whatever, it's just like, it is played out in such a way that they're taking care of each other so much, and there's so much respect and some sort of like, obviously there's fines down there, by the way. I mean, if you can get stopped if you have like more than 6 people in your car, you know, like in a big van and no one is wearing a mask, you can actually get fined. You know, there's certain things that you cannot play over here in this country, but I was really surprised also with the marketing and communication strategy they had. They have a ton of marketing outside, like out of home. You know, I don't know if you know what out of home is, but you know, the big banners and the big what's it called? Oh Jesus, I forgot the word. But anyways, it's just marketing everywhere. There's communication. So I was just wondering if we are doing something regarding that. And as you mentioned, Chief Magnuson, you know, it's about education, and the way to educate people is communication. Also, you know, if we can create some sort of like pieces or flyers or something on our website, just, you know, to create the message, because I saw it and it does work. I was really surprised with this country and you know, the people, and that is the country of my country of origin. So I was just, wow, blown away. Don't take me wrong. I think we're doing really well here, and we have more resources than they have down there for sure, so that they have to take care of each other more than what we do here. But I think that in regards to marketing communication, we need, I think, a little bit more in terms of, you know, supporting the education that you're mentioning, Chief Magnuson.
That can't hurt at a local level, and I'll remove my police hat and put on a historian hat. My family's from Sweden. They're not doing too well now. It started off well. I guess their initial plan didn't quite work out the way it's supposed to. So there's some issues over there. But speaking strictly historian, this pandemic was politicized from the word go. Now I can say that because in 1918 it was politicized too. Different reasons, because of World War I. And they didn't want to get involved with the war effort, President Wilson. So, you know, you can move it, you know, a century later, and it still remains the same. People fighting about not wearing a mask, people having Liberty bond marches to raise money without mask on in Philadelphia in the middle of the pandemic, and it spiked up in 1918. So these things happen. The more things change, the more they remain the same. Sadly, it is, but it is. We'll get through it. We're going to get through it, and we just all have to know that and stay positive. And liberties are very important in this country, and as right as well as should be. But I think so should a healthy dose of intelligence and common sense. So I
agree, and so that's why I'm mentioning the marketing piece of it. You know,
I agree. Locally, that's great.
Yeah, I think that we should actually do something just to keep it going, especially in a local level.
Sure.
Madam Chair, if I could really quickly before we wrap up, Madam Chair, Chief Magnuson will tell you that I did. There was a couple of things that he sent out, and I said, Chief, I was like, would you mind in the future if I put some of these on the website? I don't know, Chief, if you remember that. Remember, I said that. So, and she said, yeah, no problem. She said, yeah, no problem. As long as it's like the type of stuff that's public, public information. She said, yeah, no problem. I don't want to do that without his permission. But so we were already thinking about that and Member Valencia. And so I've already contacted the website administrator, and we're going to do a tab. So we're already going to do a tab for that. And so I already got permission from the chief. So I just wanted to let you know it's already in the works.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
I appreciate the permission, Chief. And I reached out to ask you that. You said, yeah, no problem. So thanks for that, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. And I really understand that the liberties in this country are really important, and I actually appreciate that. I appreciate those for sure, being an immigrant and all. And but I really believe that the education is key on this, and so we can actually communicate what certain things need to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for Chief Mac? Okay, great. Thanks so much, Chief. We'll move on to J1. Well, now J is update of open items from Member Kirk.
I think we're doing pretty well. We added a few here, but we closed two. The two we closed were the question to Omar on the countywide texting service that we could piggyback, and the fertilizer ordinance question between Elizabeth and the mayor, and the attorney. We pushed back the date on Sandra's update on the village-wide communication tool for her to get functional requirements, very understandably. Also added updated the septic to sewer update and pushed it to the next meeting because I know you're talking to them tomorrow for a follow-up, so we still have that open. And the other one that's open, FEMA funding update for February 2021. And the how to address a flood event that applies to El Portal but not Miami-Dade County. The last we had was under attorney review, and that was from the village manager to the attorney, but that was in October, and so we haven't had any update on that.
We'll have to catch Attorney Geller up on that, Madam Chair, because it was a former attorney that was working on that, and then he didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay, great. And then so that was all of our open items for next time as well, Courtney, right? That's everything that.
Correct. No, there's two more that are new today. The standard presentation deck that Kristen is going to start working on, and hopefully we'll get a prelim draft for discussion at the next meeting.
Yep.
And then Omar to get Attorney Geller to redline. So those are the two new ones.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Courtney. All right. So anything else from the task force on new business before we move on to good and welfare?
Nope.
No? Seeing none. Okay. Finally, we move to K, good and welfare. Mr. Do you have anything you wanted to add to the meeting? No? Okay, you're good. And I see no other attendees on for good and welfare. So anything else on any topic from the task force?
No, just thanks again to Chief Magnuson and Mr. Gladwin. You guys aren't part of the task force, but you guys always are here from beginning to end, and we really appreciate you guys lending your time.
Huge asset. You both.
And from me to you guys as your liaison, thank you to all of you, because all of you guys are volunteering your time, and it means a lot to the village, and I really appreciate you guys.
Happy holidays to
I want to
everybody.
say, I got a name for the City of North Miami's Resiliency Task Force, and so I have reached out to Miss Murray. So I'm still trying to get in touch with being a liaison with our task force and the two villages and cities. So that's the only thing.
All right. Thanks, Maribel. Kristen, you had something else?
No, just to say happy holidays to everybody and best wishes for
Ditto.
everybody for a productive, safe, healthy, and
Sorry,
awesome
Kristen.
start to 2021.
Listen for the Carol Vanning through the
I was
village.
wondering if caroling was going to happen. When is it
It
happening?
is so happening. It is Carol Vanning through the village, December 20th,
Okay.
Where are all of them
6
going?
to 8 p.m.
Where are they going?
We in the past, the Women's Club of El Portal has, and Chris is one of the founding members of the caroling. We sponsor a little van or a truck that pulls a wagon of children through the village, and we have stops, and they will carol at the different locations due to COVID. And I will not cancel a tradition. I decided that we would do it kind of birthday parade style. So we are changing it to Carol Vanning through the village, and with the support of our fabulous chief and the public affairs chairperson, Vice Mayor Urbaum. We are going to be possibly the fire department now might be included if they would like to join us, but we will be just riding through, and we'll probably do the same stops that we always do, Sherwood Forest, the Northwest side, but throughout the entire time, we're going to be blaring music and sirens and just going up and down the village, just spreading cheer, playing Christmas holiday music so that people can come out and listen to it. So we will be distanced. We will not get out.
I'm so proud of you, Maribel. I'm really
That's what
proud
we're
of
doing.
you. When I got your email or your text, actually, you sent me a text and I was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you that you're not canceling it. And yet again, my daughter will be missing it. But my daughter is in Colombia. She stayed there with her dad's family. And I'm like, oh my God, I never knew that my daughter is missing it.
Your daughter, I think, out of this was the 7th year. She's only
I
been like
know.
1 year.
It's always so bad timing. She's always with her dad. I'm like, oh, it annoys me.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to do it. Honestly, I have to do it. Being a teacher, I can't do it like until school is over for me to like wrap my brain around that. So it's easier for me to do. It's usually the weekend before that holiday we go to break. So it's kind of like Yahoo. But we're going to do it this Sunday from 6 to 8. You'll be hearing sirens and holiday music at between 6 and 8 p.m. And if you see it on Nextdoor, I'm going to post it tonight. Just keep it up on the feed because that's how people will hear about it. No, I'm not flyering. So we just need to try to spread some holiday cheer.
That's awesome.
Because the tree lighting was kind of quiet. There was a tree lighting in El Portal, but it was a little bit quiet. So.
Oh, when was that? I was away. So when did it happen?
Last weekend, Mayor. Do you know when the tree lighting was, Mayor?
So we had, it was lit before our council meeting, well, not the full council meeting, before the special planning and zoning meeting, which was last Tuesday.
Last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So. Thanks for updating us on that, Maribel. I didn't know that was on Sunday, and I'm excited to that.
Yay.
Yeah, everybody's gonna be really surprised. So, Kristen, if you wanna like just Carol Van, just let me know.
Awesome. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. I think we are all set to adjourn. Any last comments, Task Force? No?
No, but
awesome. All right. Task Force. Go ahead. Courtney, go ahead.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Thank you. I forgot about
I'll
that.
second.
All right. Hearing a motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Bye.
Bye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the task force is officially adjourned at 5:22 p.m.
You guys did a wonderful job. We had a long.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah, you guys
Happy
did.
holidays.
You guys take care.
Yeah, there's a couple more days of Hanukkah left.
Yes.
Happy Hanukkah. Yes.
2 nights left. 2 nights left.
Bye-bye.
2 nights left of Hanukkah. Because we do both at my house.
Take care, you guys.
Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye now.